Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. Today we're in the philosophical midwifery Orange Sutra. Congratulations to us.
Wow.
Why are we congratulating ourselves? Because we are being mature. What? Mature in a rare kind of way, in an exceptional kind of way. In fact, not only are we being mature, we are acting with a courage and commitment that is rarely found even among people who are otherwise mature. So last time we came to a new definition of maturity. Okay, of course, we all have our own definitions of maturity that we're working with, but having learnt what we are learning about what is most significant to ourselves, our soul, and what makes us rational and mature, we have upgraded our understanding of maturity. That's called learning. Now, that's also a part of the aspects or structure of the dialectic. Dialectic doesn't just finish. You don't just have a definition and then you're done. Your understanding evolves the more you learn, especially the more you learn about the logos and what is most significant to our soul and our destiny. Now, those who say, well, I am sticking with the definitions I got when I was 4 years old, because if that was wrong, that means my dear papa was wrong, and I will fight anyone who says that my papa isn't the wisest man in the world, and that would mean my dear mama was not as beautiful and loving as I thought she was, and she is a saint. I will do fisticuffs with all those who declare that my mother wasn't a infallible divine saint. All right? There are people who think that way and act not all that different from that characterization. Literally, yo mama jokes and my dad can beat up your dad kind of stuff. A blind loyalty to the beliefs we got in our childhood. Now, we can extend that and say, well, hang on a second. Isn't it true that Muslim children are born into Muslim families? Christian children are born into Christian families. Anglican children are born into Anglican families. That's no coincidence, is it? There is a certain kind or class of beliefs that can only come from your childhood because it's not based on understanding. It's not based on reason and evidence. It's not based on learning. You don't go to school to learn which religion is right. We all know that. That's not a newsflash. So, therefore, the sorts of people who are blindly loyal to whatever definitions they got in childhood, especially about the nature of the soul, the divine, and the meaning of life, we have an understanding for what that is. Immaturity. Now, by implication, we would say it's also irrational. To forego reason for allegiance to beliefs. And it doesn't take very many steps to apply that to how we relate to each other and on the world stage to realize, well, hang on a second, there are many wars fought over, and not just wars, conflict and genocide and political debates and race-based scuffles based simply on people defending the beliefs they grew up with. In other words, definitions they haven't evolved with reason and reflection. They are stagnant. Now, there's a word for that we learned last time, immaturity. They are immature. Oh, I love my Legos. I'm going to hold on to that. That's immaturity. No, but I loved my beliefs. The Cowboys are the best football team. I'm not going to think otherwise. Well, hang on a second. When you're out in the world, you might have to. Perhaps your job is something to do with sports analysis. You have to be rational. You can't just claim Cowboys are the best football team because that's your belief that you grew up with. But my daddy loved the Cowboys and my mummy loved the Cowboys. That's cool. Well, we allow that. We allow that way of functioning so long as it doesn't affect us. But as soon as it starts to affect others, as soon as you're in a position of power of any kind, we don't tolerate that, do we? You get fired from your job as sports analysis if you just declared Cowboys the winner of the league when they hadn't got the right amount of points. They hadn't won the most points in the season. That's obvious. That person we would call as being immature. Now, from last time, we have evolved our definition to include more of the nature of the causes of that immaturity. Why are people so immature? And likewise, what makes people mature? What's the maturity that we need to develop for our own integrity as individuals, for our own evolution and spiritual growth as individual souls, and for humanity to survive the inevitable destruction that awaits it if it remains immature and wants to put an end to the genocide and suffering and war and exploitation and fascism and capitalism and the destruction of the planet and all of these things that we all know are irrational and immature. Let's put an end to that. How do we have to do it? Become mature. What does it mean to be mature? We have more of an understanding of that because of last time. Now let's reiterate. Okay, that sort of way of acting that we call immature. We can describe it using what we read last time. It's cowardice. Yeah, of course. It's cowardice to be immature. Lacks integrity. So we're reading from the text. These are all words that we pulled directly from the text. There's no interpretation. We are not ourselves being immature. We are ourselves practicing maturity. We are demonstrating what we're defining. That's always the case in philosophy, in learning. It's always demonstration and definition. Why? Because it's always a dialectic. Remember, turtles all the way down. So what are we doing? We are having a level of integrity. It's easy. Whoops, let's bring out my pen. It's easy to point to them, to the others, and say, oh, that's an immature group of people because of their crazy religious beliefs. That's an immature race of people because of their immature, irrational cultural beliefs that they're clinging to. That's an immature society because they're going around genociding people. That's an immature society because they haven't realized the exploitive, fascistic nature of capitalism yet. Very easy to see it in others, but to have integrity would be to reflect on ourselves and say, well, where is my? Because it's a human thing. Every human being develops false beliefs called the pathologos. That is the cause of our problems and our immaturity. To have integrity is to reflect and learn and do better. Lacking integrity is immaturity. So how do we become better? Maturity. We have to have a courage. We have to sacrifice beliefs for understanding. But even my dear beloved ones, yes, even the ones I've linked to my family who are also of the same religion, of the same culture, of the same kind of prejudice, yes. That's maturity. But I love them. Well, part of it being immature is not challenging those appearances of beauty and sincerity. That is what you are loving. You love them because you are immature in that you haven't challenged the appearances. What would be mature? To call into question. Ask questions. Hang on a second. Why is it that I think my parents are the most sincere and beautiful, but my next door neighbors don't think that? Isn't that weird? And the people who they apply it to isn't some genius living overseas, it's their parents? All right. Integrity. It requires courage. It requires commitment. Maturity is aiming for success, to reach the goal, to be successful in challenging the family pathologos, This is all what it means to be mature. Therefore, immaturity isn't being childly loyal to your beloved false images and beliefs. No. It also involves cowardice. It also involves an allegiance to beliefs over understanding. It also involves, hey, maybe there are people who realize the significance of understanding, realize the harm that beliefs cause, and the fact that beliefs don't lead to understanding and mastery. Even if they're true beliefs, that's not enough. That's only a stepping stone to understand why those beliefs are true and to apply it in experience, validate it in experience, dianoia nous, integrate it, leaving beliefs behind. At best, they're a stepping stone. There might be people like that. They see the significance of understanding. Maybe because they've learned a skill and they have an occupation which required understanding. But these people refuse to return to their parents and families, challenge the false beliefs and pathologos. Therefore, they are still immature. Quite a high standard for maturity, isn't it? You could say yes, in that it's uncommon, but actually, if the pathologos is the cause of our injustice, it isn't a high standard. It's as low as the bar can be. Because if you're not addressing the cause of the most significant problems that you face and you do to others and will be passed on within the family tradition, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're putting band-aids on problems. So we could say, wow, to really go back and address our parents and families with an understanding of the nature of our pathologos based on appearances, based on the impact of a rare time where our parents showed themselves, but only in a certain kind of way, which was an imitation. All that's required, and if we don't, we're immature. Wasn't that a lot? Well, it's challenging. It requires commitment. It requires courage. A rare kind of courage. But if you're not, what are you doing? You're allowing the problems you suffer to continue. And you're allowing your parents to care. You're not even giving them a question that could snap them out of their problem. And you're allowing the injustice to continue. In other words, if you have a broken toaster that electrocutes everyone who makes toast, and you say, well, I'm not going to use that toaster anymore. Well, maybe sometimes, only once a week, you are still harming yourself because you are not addressing the cause of the broken toaster. You are not addressing the cause of your own problems. You're still getting electrocuted, and everyone else in the family is still getting electrocuted. And the new babies that are born are going to get electrocuted. So we could say this is a high standard for maturity. Or we could say, no, it's baseline. Provided you have understood this is the cause of our problems. Isn't that interesting? People can still choose to be immature. But now it's a choice. By the way, going back and addressing the pathologos, successfully challenging it for your own freedom means now they can't play dumb. Now they're actively choosing immaturity, cowardice, giving up, lack of commitment. Another benefit to actually doing this, to being mature. They're choosing injustice. They can't pretend to be ignorant. Oh, but that's all we ever knew. Oh, but it was a different time. Oh, but blah, 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 blah. No, it's the cause of the problems that you are suffering through and I suffered through and you've passed on. It's also a principle that applies to all human beings. All human problems are fundamentally caused by this, or this class of human problems. This binds us to fate in this life and probably in the next. No one's going to force you to become mature. That wouldn't be being mature, would it? If you're doing it because daddy makes you, or teacher makes you, or you're forced to, you are still in an immature role. It's an invitation. And that's what this channel is. It's an invitation to maturity. So what do we do in the face of this? The face of recognizing that most people are going to have this cowardice and allegiance to false beliefs, this lack of integrity, this blind loyalty to appearances that happened in their childhood from these rare early scenes where our parents appeared to be sincere, appeared to be, where's the words? Sincere and beautiful. But it's literally the cause of our human problems. What are we going to do? Hey, is a genocide going on? Are they rationally addressing the problems? No. Are they blindly adhering to false beliefs? Yes. Capitalism is going on. Does capitalism benefit anyone? No. Even the ridiculously rich dragons who are siphoning away obscene amounts of wealth for themselves are harming themselves because what they think is their good, they're getting through injustice. So it ain't actually good for them. Is anyone addressing that? No. Why? But that's what we knew. It's what I grew up in. We have a cowardice and a lack of commitment to address the common false beliefs that cause our problems. So what? So that's where we are in our level of human evolution. That's where we are right now. So what can we do? We can ourselves be mature, which is what? The opposite of only revealing what's true or what we think is true in rare situations in a certain kind of way. That's an imitation of our pathologos. That's immaturity. What can we do? What can we do given this is the fact? Reveal ourselves in a wide range of ways, often and always. Tell the truth. Your highest understanding of the truth, based on your highest nous or vision of self and reality. Always. Oh, but people don't like having their beliefs challenged. Yeah. They don't because they're immature. So maybe do it with some artfulness, but reveal yourself. And in doing so, you are inviting somebody into a new way of being they may not have had a model for up until now. You're demonstrating, and if they're open to it, helping them to define what maturity is. So what can we do? On a planet, at a part of history, at a time of our evolution, where we are irrational and immature due to a usually unsuspected, immature, blind loyalty to our false beliefs that keeps us trapped in cycles of misery, injustice, failures that can possibly end our race. And usually if you start to address those false beliefs, you'll be faced with the counterattack because of that blind loyalty, because of that immaturity, because of how rare it is to have the courage and commitment for rationality and maturity. And if you tell the people in charge they are the people least likely to change, what do we do? Well, we've talked about ourselves being mature for our own benefit, and it will have a secondary benefit of becoming a model, but you can invite people to a newer way of being. That's the channel. This channel is an invitation to maturity and rationality, an invitation to learn what is needed to solve our problems. Our soul's problems. Now, it does also mean it's the problems that our society faces, of course, but this is for us. This is for you. Who knows how long our species has? Who knows whether others will wake up to philosophy, to the logos and the pathologos. but we can do it. And we can invite others to play. Play the best game in town, the noblest game, and the only game worth playing. And that's the channel. So, neat. We've evolved our definition of maturity to include our higher level of understanding based on a reflection of what's most significant, the logos and pathologos. We're getting better. We're leveling up. So let's jump back into the text and keep going. In such cases, we find it takes an unusual level of commitment and courage to successfully challenge the pathologos, which is something we could not even expect among the immature. All right, so we have to invite people to understand definition and demonstrate maturity. Which is this channel, by the way. Join the Discord if you want. Is the imposition possible at any times in one's life, or is there some time better than others for this imposition? New question. So maybe a new dialectic here. A new puzzle. Is any time, or is there some time better? Clearly it is only when authorities still retain the image of authority in dependent relationships. And most often in our youth, that events can produce the pathologos. These early events or scenes must include the sacrifice of what we know through our own personal experience. So now we have another metaphor, or left and right, or A and B, what is and what isn't, the dialectic. So we can continue underneath here. So they are retaining their image of authority. Okay, run out of space. Which means we can, or you can, solve the puzzle, do the other side. So what would be here? Dependent relationships. This is another necessary condition. Dependent relationships. Which means, what would be the opposite? What would be the mature? What would be the conditions for freedom or maturity? In our youth, therefore, when is it more easier for us to become free? These early events or scenes must include the sacrifice of what we know. Okay, so if we stay on this side, we sacrifice what? So in order to be immature and stuck in our problems, have our pathologos, sacrifice what we know through our own personal experience. own personal, right? Beliefs are not based on your own experience. They're based on what you get from other people. Own personal experience, right? I believe it because the guy in the big funny hat told me. I believe it because that's what my parents told me. I believe it because it's written in an old book. Belief. And then we talked about many times, if anyone wants you to state the level of belief, they are conning you. They are a scammer. And we talked about the apprentice. The apprentice might start by having to follow some beliefs or have a different kind of belief that we would call trust. There is actually good reason and experience for trusting the mechanic that you become an apprentice of, rather than these conditions. These are not rational conditions for trusting our purveyors of our pathologos. So it's a different kind of belief. But even then, if you're so different kind of trust than just belief. Now, even then, if you ask, oh, why does the gasket go on the carburetor? And they say, hey, just believe me. No. That's a scammer. At best, they're trying to keep you enslaved, because belief causes slavery. You're not a master if you have to be reliant. You're keeping you in a dependent relationship with that mechanic as a slave, as a servant, keeping their image of authority. Maybe that's why they're keeping you dumb. And they are, or maybe they don't even know anything. So, wherever anyone comes along and says, hey, I think you should stay at the level of belief. Hope and change, says politicians. Hope, just believe us. Have faith. They are a scammer. By definition, and we are understanding why that's the case here. Okay, so we sacrifice what we know through our own personal experience. So what would be the implications of being mature and challenging successfully this? What do we get back? Where do we pick up where we left off, don't we? We go back to pick up where we left off. Where we sacrifice what we knew through our own personal experience, we go back to, we go back to the moment we did that sacrifice and we get it back. Why is it going like this? That's weird. I wonder why. There we go. Wonder why it was making the funny lines. Right, so do that. What would we get back? I'm giving you opportunities to play. I'm inviting you to maturity. Now, the drama that transmits a belief with such enormous consequence is worth doing, like enormous consequence. This is literally the most significant thing you can do. As the pathologos hinges upon concealing from the child that the actors are acting out an act. So we could even say, transmit a belief with enormous consequence. You could even put that in the list. Transmits belief with enormous how do you spell enormous? ORMOUS. enormous consequences. So what would be the other side? Free? Free from beliefs? Our pathologos beliefs do not have the enormous consequences anymore? Not transmitted anymore? We wouldn't ourselves continue the tradition and transmit it on? Fill in the other side. The pathologos hinges upon another cause or condition, concealing from the child. So there's a subterfuge, there's a grift going on. They're not telling the truth here. Interesting, I thought my image of my parents was sincere and beautiful, and I thought this is what it means to be loving, yada, yada, yada. No. They concealed from you. Oh, is that good? No. Conceal. Can it be tough to hear? Yes. Do you want to hear it anyway? If you're mature and you have courage. Could it shake you to realize that we're lying to you at a most significant time of your life that hinges on whether or not you get this terrible false belief with these enormous consequences? Can that shake you? Oh yeah. So what do you need? An unusual kind of commitment to truth and understanding and your own purpose and destiny. So stay in the game. There will be hurdles. Keep running. Keep playing. Concealing. Hinges on concealing. Sealing. Concealing from the child. So, that the actors were acting out an act. Concealing from the child that the actors were pretending, acting, but they seemed so sincere. They had so much energy, right? Ever seen a really angry person tell you what happened in some drama? And then he was like this, oh, get out of the way. And I was like, hey man, calm down. But he was like, oh, I'm gonna fight you. When they're playing out that act, they seem to have the exact same abundance of energy tied to the pathologos as the same person that they were, that was being unjust towards them. In other words, just because you have power and energy and you seem sincere doesn't mean you're not playing out an act. But then I was like, nah, bro, that's my beer. And he was like, oh, I'm gonna fight you. Oh, and you'll stink in your. I'm telling a story of someone, but I'm acting. I'm pretending to be this guy. But I have all these characteristics that we mistake for beauty and sincerity and even knowingness. Actors concealed from the child. The actors were acting out an act. Therefore, what would it mean to be mature? Hey, yo, welcome to the chat. Hope you enjoy it. We are discussing the conditions for the primary false belief that we call the pathologos that we get. That's the cause for our terrible consequences, the cause for the problems that we play out in our life. And we're understanding not only what are the necessary causes for passing on a false belief, but we are wondering what would be the implications to what is the opposite. If we don't want to act in this unjust way, act out an act with enormous consequences that causes the people around us, especially our children, to sacrifice what they know from their own personal experiences, to develop a false belief because they're in a dependent relationship and we're pretending to be an authority figure. If we don't want to have that devastating effect, what would we need to be doing? That's for you to answer. What's the opposite of concealing from a child that we're acting out an act? Well, something to do with concealing. How about honesty? Something to do with when you're expressing yourself, are you putting on an act? Are you playing the role of what it means to be certain? Well, when I speak like this, governor. Right, I'm a Geordie from... No, that's not a Geordie. That's a British guy. All right there, Gov. I'm really smart because I'm Idris Igba. Idris Igba. The actor, what's his name? Do you know who he is? Anyway, all right, so when I have this accent and I put on this act, that means I'm a tough, knowing guy, right? Or I'll give you a bunch of knucks. That's a kind of mask, a kind of act that we play out. Now, what would be the alternative? What would be maturity? Not playing out an act. No masks. Sincerity. Even if you don't know. Especially if you don't know. The opportunities to develop questions. Look at all the questions we have here. And what sort of a person will we become if we are telling the truth and being ourselves? Thanks for the follow. There are only two possibilities: accepting the act and the performance as real, or rejecting the whole performance as a mere act. Okay, so our author has given us a bit of a clue to the structure of the puzzle. He's given us both sides. Often you get that, by the way, especially if you read Plato. He'll give you both sides. So for example, he'll say, there's the famous cave analogy. So what we recognize as the pathologos, people chained in a cave, projections from people carrying objects, fake, they're actors. They project shadows on a back wall of a cave, says Socrates, and that's the physical world that we relate to. It's an illusion. Now he'll say, by the way, the shadows will represent what we talked about when we said projection or interpretation based on our false beliefs. Now, by the way, I've given you one part from the cave story and one part from the truth that it's representing. One from column A, one from column B. Now, I'm going to tell you more about column A. There are chains. There are fellow prisoners. There is a fire casting the shadows. There is a hard, steep cave, a path up to the opening of the cave. The opening of the cave is very wide. I'm not going to give you their equivalents because I've already given you one. I've already started you off. Same thing with video games. We're going to walk you through the first boss fight, but now you figure out every single other boss fight, you have to do the same. You have to match it. You have to do whatever you did this time because that's playing. Same thing with any other story. Luke Skywalker becomes a Jedi and Obi-Wan Kenobi says, I'm going to show you how to deflect little lasers from these little floating droids. Now, the next one you have to do. When you face the stormtroopers, you have to deflect with your lightsaber. Chong, 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 like that. So okay, that's just a revision of a way of writing. If you're a game developer, if you're a movie maker, if you're a storyteller, but if you're a reader as well, reading the text, especially for Socrates, because he doesn't tell us, he gives us what we need to figure it out ourselves. So, by the way, would just telling someone be a kind of imposition of a belief? And if you, like we said, if you're just imposing beliefs, are you a grifter? And are you requiring people to remain at a level of immaturity, like they're dependent on you, like a child or a follower? Whether you're a follower of a religion or a family or a culture, or you're a Trump supporter or a Nazi, whatever it is, you're still a follower. Hey, even if you become the leader, is Trump just acting out an act? Anyway, that he thinks that what it means to be knowing. Okay, so there are two possibilities: accepting the act and the performance as real. accepting the act and performers as real. That's a kind of immaturity, or leads to our immaturity, and is a condition or cause of our problems. Or on the other side, he gives us the other side. Reject the whole performance as a mere act. And that's our goal. That's maturity. Hey, buddy, this whole thing. Reject the whole performance. No, not buying in, pal. This is all a big act. It's not as real and dramatic as you're making it. Hey, by the way, right now, there are some great streamers like our friend Denims, who does a very good job and is pretty fantastic in reporting the logos and understanding the causes of the very things we've been talking about in the world. And there is a person, I think his name is, I can't remember, Ethan Klein maybe, who got her banned from her work because he wants to create a drama that, of course, we can understand is a reflection of his religious drama, reflection of his cultural drama, reflection of his family drama. He is very immature, completely unwilling to reflect on his problems, but instead is creating a drama to hurt other people around him. Of course, the way that our economy works right now, the more drama you create, the more clicks you get, the more ad revenue you make, the more money you get, the more audience you get, and so on and so on. So people are rewarded for creating this fake drama, but it's nonsense. It's fake. It's all an act. It's garbage. It's an act that can have negative consequences for people who buy into it. No more denim streams. But it's all an act. And our job is to be mature and reject the whole performance. The whole performance as a mere act. Which ironically was something that Denim to the stream, the last stream that she made, ironically, comedically or tragically, she took a lot of time and patience to outline this fact for all of her viewers who were getting wrapped up in the immaturity and the drama, which was all an act to distract from what he is not mature enough, not choosing to be mature enough to address the genocide in Palestine. His wife, of course, joined the Israeli army, and he became an Israeli citizen, so they're very much in support of the genocide. He doesn't want to have the maturity to reflect on why that might be the case. Why is the people who suffered a genocide inflicting one? Let's address the causes. That would be maturity. Instead of addressing that, he wants to continue the act. And Denims points out to people. That's why I recommend her stream. She makes it simple. She's funnier than I am, and she's more charming than I am, so it's easier to understand. Points out that it's just an act. They are bad faith actors. They're not actually interested in principles. They have no principles. They're not actually finding truth in understanding. Understanding is about principles. Truth is about being, from which we get our principles. They don't care. He's quite happy to make disgusting comments about Jewish people himself, but when it's people who are telling the truth about his act, he will attack them. So it's a whole performance. So if you're interested in understanding and you want someone with a little bit more entertainment value and charm and humor than I am, then check out her stream. If the people in charge of Twitch also reject that whole bullshit performance as an act too. Currently, they're not. They're pretending it's real for whatever reason, and being immature themselves. And she's currently facing a 30-day ban, which is insane because the reason why we like her is because She is the most mature and rational and logos-driven person I've seen on the platform, apart from our friend Socrates, who leads this stream. So, yeah, quite ironic. But hey, if that's what it takes to be mature, to be rejected by these people, then maybe that's a price that is worth paying. Now, we don't want that to be the case for Denims, of course, because she's contributing something important to the world. That is a kind of rare level of courage, a rare interest in understanding over beliefs. Almost all other streamers on YouTube and Twitch are interested in beliefs. It's much easier to be a professional opinion haver. So very rare in that circumstance, in that area. But also a rare courage, because she is telling the truth in the face of these people, and with a level of commitment that's also rare, even among the otherwise mature, rarely found. So, an example of a genuine expression of integrity, of sincerity, of beauty, and that's why she has a good amount of followers. It's easy to see for those who are interested in seeing it, and those who reject the act, reject the whole performance of these bad faith actors, we call them. Also, there's a word, clip chimpers, people who clip like chimps take clips mindlessly, not to discover truth and principles like we're doing here, but to justify their own ignorance and pathologos beliefs. So all of this she's saying herself, which is pretty neat. We're formalizing the understanding behind it. That's what we're doing here. So good for us. Okay, so in accepting the drama as real, more significant than our own experience, we interpret all else in terms of it, right? Which is, again, I can use common dramas on this platform that I stream on, or on the political stage. Keep in mind, all of this is metaphor. It's easier to see when it's played out through time. It's easier to see in other people. That's what we said. It's easy to see, right? Those people are immature because their religion's nuts. Those people, and they are blindly loyal to it instead of understanding truth. Those people, their culture is nuts and they're immature. It's easier to see in the others. Also, when it's played out through time in a dramatic fashion, again, it's easy to see. That's the principle of Plato's Republic. The Republic is not a political text. He literally says it. It's a amplification or a magnification of the aspects of our soul. Let's pretend our soul is a whole city and look at parts of the city, which isn't real. These aren't actual parts of the city, but it's a representation or a metaphor to understand the parts of our own soul and psyche. So too here, as we read, we can have fun projecting it onto the global stage. Also, we benefit by understanding what can be very frustrating, the nature of the political conflict and our human irrationality. So we can gain a rare kind of understanding of the world, and we can project it also or magnify it into personal drama, like this specific one of a lot of right-wing racists and grifters who want to create drama on Twitch and YouTube for clicks and money and stuff, but also attacking the rare mature people who are using understanding to address causes, and some of whom have a very beautiful and sincere and charming and funny way of presenting this to the everyday folk so they can benefit and learn, raising the level of maturity and rationality of us as a species, so we can project what we're seeing onto that to make sense of that drama. But always we keep in mind that that's just to better understand it going on within our own soul. In other words, as we go through our lives, we will set goals. This voice of side A here, the immature, the one that's an act, the one that's based on images, the one that will end up reinterpreting everything in terms of, that's the projection, that's the shadows on the wall of the cave. Everything is a reiteration or a proving our prejudice is right. See? A self-fulfilling prophecy. This is maintained within our own souls by a kind of voice we call the negative daemon or the bad daemon. We have an internal voice that keeps this crap alive. Our job is to reject it as a mere act. Socrates talks about how we treat your mind like a friend. If you have a goal, I want to be the best dancer of all time. And then that voice comes and says, no, you can't do that. Give up on dancing. Well, if it's an internal voice that seems sincere, that seems beautiful, seems to reflect an image of truth, it has a great impact on us with enormous consequences, then we tend to believe it, causing our problems, causing us to give up on our goals, causing our repeating cycles of failure. Our job is to treat it like a friend. If a friend says, hey, by the way, you should give up on your goal to be a great dancer, we wouldn't say, oh, okay. We say, well, hang on, what? Why? If it was an actual friend, we wouldn't just blindly obey him or believe him. We'd ask some questions. If he was refusing to allow questions, like the political drama happening now with these streamers, refusing to engage in conversation. Famously, this guy who's getting all these great streamers banned, Ethan Klein, is being invited by other people who are champions of understanding, like Sam Cedar and the Minority Report, and even another streamer named Hassan, is inviting him to talk. Even his own chat community is trying to engage with him. He's blocked his own chat, refusing to talk. Refusing the logos is a sign of a pathologos block, because pathologos functions to block your logos. It's your problem. So if our friends are like, oh, I'm not going to talk about it, just stop being a dancer. Oh, by the way, again, so that's the political, that's the Twitch drama, the global drama, right? What happens to the college students who are protesting the genocide? Are the authority figures, the colleges, the people who have all the money, who are, sending all these weapons to murder these Palestinian children, are they saying, let's engage in a dialogue, let's understand your concerns, and let's find a cause to these concerns, and let's address it with rationality and maturity. Let's understand the cause to the problems that are happening and the cause to our perhaps ineffectual solutions to those problems. Is that happening? No. What are they doing? They're getting thrown in prison. The most immature and irrational kind of thing you could do. Kicked out of their schools. Banned from Twitch. So, we can make a conclusion. What is the strongest influence within our culture at every level? This side. Therefore, can we understand why the courage, the commitment, the value of understanding, and the commitment to follow understanding and courage until you have successfully addressed this and freed yourself from it is rare? It's exceptional and rare. Can we see why now? Even by blowing it up to the political stage or in terms of everyday dramas like on the platform? Now, so too within our soul. It will take for us on this journey a rare kind of commitment that's unusual. It's difficult to find people on the quest, but it's important.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Because philosophy isn't a solo quest. Now, that's why one of the reasons why I started this podcast and this channel, why we have a Discord, why we have a community, to find these rare sorts who are on this quest for true understanding of causes, true freedom from problems, true maturity and rationality, and true personal development and growth to experience ultimately the truth of self and reality, along with an understanding of it that can be used together with our highest experiences of self and reality so that we can function with it in an artful way. Just like Socrates does with his use of the dialectic, and just like Pierre Grimes and a philosophical midwife does with the use of the dialectic to address this. That's rare. But maybe it'll speak to your soul and you can get on board. Okay, what do you have to do? Reject the act of such bad faith actors as a performance. Again, blow it up. What's the political party that represents the pathologos? The right-wingers. What do they do on TV? They put on an act. They pretend to be outraged. They pretend to believe in religion. They pretend to be for the working class. They pretend to be for workers' rights, while acting against all of those principles. They are putting on an act. Now, one of the failings of the left or the progressives is they're not rejecting it as an act. Well, maybe we should compromise with these people who are outright lying. Bullshit. Tell the truth. Reject this, what they're doing, as an act. You know they're grifters, then you know they're lying. It's not a newsflash that politicians lie, and it's not a newsflash that the bow tie wearing trust fund billionaire elites are not for the working class. That's where they get their money from, siphoning it off the working class. It's not news. Everyone knows this. Why are you not rejecting their act? In other words, even the left needs to develop philosophy, awaken philosophy. Read this book, learn what rationality and maturity is. Otherwise, how can they be progressive if they don't know the logos, which is the method of progression? And how can they be progressive if they're not freeing themselves from what binds them to ignorance? So all of this is to help us understand our own soul. When that voice comes up and says, you're not good enough, don't do it. Yourself or reality is not good enough for you to have your highest goals, reject it. That inner critic, the negative daemon. The one that sabotages you. Self isn't good enough, reality isn't good enough, you can't do it, give up. Settle for something less. Become a slave and follower of someone else. Don't express yourself. Don't do everything over here. Don't reveal yourself in a wide range of ways. Only look for these rare opportunities to get angry when you have to express yourself. Don't question appearances. Be a follower. Including follow my voice that tells you you're not good enough. What do? Do we listen to it? Do we compromise with it? Okay, I'll give up on dancing, but I'll be a dancing teacher. I'll take a lesser goal. No, it's not real. Reject it. Instead, ask the questions of its cause. That voice, what is it telling us? Just like this person, whoever it is that's acting in this immature way. Who are you imitating? Where did you get this injustice from? You know, it's no surprise. Hurt people. Do unto others what was done unto us. That's the game. That's fate, not the real game. It's the It's the fate we need to escape from. So too with our inner voice. Hey, bollocks. Bollocks. Literally, both philosophical midwifery and philosophy is to seek the self which is beyond even the realm of being, beyond even the divine. So literally anything that says myself is inadequate can't be true by understanding. It might feel true, but courage is to follow understanding with a level of commitment, even if it feels otherwise. So, I reject you can't be true. And by the way of following the logos that we follow to directly experience reality in the realm of being and beyond it in the self, that's the logos, which comes from being. So if you say the universe isn't great and cares about me and is all pervasive, that can't be true either, because logos. I reject you outright. But I can look at you metaphoric. That's what a metaphor is. We're not literally in a cave of shadows like Socrates described, but we can understand the pieces metaphorically for what they are actually telling us. So too, that inner voice, oh, now it's not literal. It can't be. But can I take the aspects of that inner voice, that negative daemon, kakor daemon in the Greek, and look at what are the aspects it is metaphorically representing in order to free myself from this? That's our job. And what's really wild is every moment we have an opportunity to do that, because that inner voice, that inner negative voice that isn't true, seems to be a lot louder than the actual daemon voice of the self that's guiding us. We have an opportunity to free ourselves all the time. It takes us back to the opening paragraph of this chapter, which is worth reviewing whenever we have an opportunity, worth memorizing, which shows us that it is entirely possible to verify for ourselves that we are a part of a caring and intelligible universe. That verification is a kind of proof to us based on this kind of understanding and a realization, an insight, a direct experience that our mind constantly communicates for us and our benefit. It's as profound as the communication from the mind. Communications from the mind are as profound as they are utterly appropriate to our circumstances, for while the scope of the mind is pervasive, its precision is always directed to what is personally significant. That inner voice is always going to direct its criticism to what's personally significant. You will never be the greatest dancer. We will demonstrate that our choice of goals, give up on that goal, be a dance teacher instead. The problems we face, everyone will laugh at you if you try and dance. The daydreams and fantasy we have, we imagine that voice creates that imagination and that fantasy of us being laughed at if we pursue our dancing goals. And the dreams that visit us in our sleep, that's the big one. That's a real help to us. That's a huge piece of the puzzle. Our dreams gives us the clues about our problem and its solution. Each and every one of them are like doorways to the richest insights, source of insights into our life. What we discover through these insights is that the mind itself provides ample evidence for its own goodness and intelligibility. So, if that voice comes in and says otherwise, self or reality isn't, caring and intelligible. Well, hang on a second. If you're saying that, you are claiming knowledge and understanding. That's intelligibility. And if you are going out of your way to communicate it, you're either doing it because you think it's caring, or you're doing it because you're a big, fat, smelly jerk trying to harm people. In other words, you must be claiming intelligibility and care when you are telling me that I suck. Inner voice. So by the way, where did you learn about what intelligibility and care is? Is it from that opening paragraph that we just read? Or is it an imitation of a model of what's intelligibility and care that isn't based on that, but instead based on all these conditions? a rare, unique moment of expression of an appearance of sincerity and beauty that you never questioned. Maybe questioning was silenced, as we talked about. Cowardice and allegiance to beliefs instead of understanding. That's very common. And a failure yourself to have addressed the parents and the family pathologos that you got from when someone had an image of authority that you were dependent on when you were young, that caused you to sacrifice what you knew about intelligibility and care as you were seeking it through actual truth and understanding through the logos. You sacrificed that, hey? To get this false image of it. And this belief that this kind of way of treating me is intelligibility and care has enormous consequences if I believe it. And if I don't reject it as garbage and in a big old smelly act. By the way, you were lied to when you got this. They didn't tell you that they were just playing out a big old act. So, as above, so below. That voice, our origin scene, the everyday drama, even on this platform of Twitch. The political drama, it's all the same issue. And of course it has to be because we are learning the logos, which is the paradigm, the logos and the dialectic, the paradigm of intelligibility and care. Isn't that interesting? The answer is...
wow.
Yes.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
I think it's interesting. And it is. All right. In accepting the drama as real and as more significant than our experience, we interpret all else in terms of it. Right? Had a friend who's always playing the victim, and you try and explain, no, that's not what's happening, but he interprets everything to prove that. He interprets all else in terms of it. And by the way, if he thinks that reality is making him a victim, does he model himself on that? Does he victimize others? Do we see that playing out on the dramas and on the world stage? We model ourselves in terms of what we presume to be higher. It becomes our model of excellence. We talked about the parental, how the parents got in that position, because we have a desire to play the knower. We want to be that thing we presume to be higher than our own selves. We're looking for an opportunity where we can put on that mask and play that bullshit game. Because we presume it to be higher than our own selves. We become less than ourselves by forcing our experience to fit a belief that is consistent with the themes of the drama. So, among these themes of the act, there is a belief that makes sense of it as a whole. A keystone. Brings it all together in a puzzle. Brings all the puzzle pieces together. That's the unsuspected belief that we didn't put into words, that is consistent with all of the themes around the drama. As long as this structure is in place, it maintains the pathologos. So there's a structure, there's the themes of the drama, there are all those conditions that we have been outlining. And there is the final keystone that brings it all together. That's the fundamental pathologos that we don't know we're carrying, a fundamental false belief about ourselves and reality that lacks intelligibility and care, among other things. That's the thing we're after. We want to bring down the house of cards. So, for these people who are attacking the better Twitch streamers, or in the political stage that are doing, genocides or capitalism or mass exploitation or destroying the planet for the personal profits when they don't need them, these are themes within their drama, but even though those things are obvious even to them, their job, if they awaken to philosophy and their purpose for being alive here is to find the keystone. What's the fundamental false belief that's causing all of their injustice and their internal misery and suffering? What's the key piece, the keystone that keeps the house of cards up, that's consistent with all those other themes of the drama? Because as long as that whole structure, a house of cards, is in place, it maintains that pathologos. So we want to get to that pathologos, or remove the whole pathologos, by discovering the fundamental pathologos belief keystone, but also take away all these themes. Reject the act. Reject that inner voice. Question our appearances of beauty and sincerity. Question the roles that we have become identified with and expressing ourselves through. Embrace maturity. Tell the truth often. Follow what you know in your own personal experiences. Embrace understanding over belief. Be sincere. Because each one of those things, each one of those terms that we have put in this, now some of them I haven't put on the board because that's for you to do, but embracing all of these terms on this side, can't really see that, we are dismantling that structure of the pathologos as a whole. Reject the performance as an act. Be sincere. Don't conceal things from others. Tell the truth. Hold on to what we know and go back to where we left off and keep going. Embrace understanding. Reject authority. Return to our parents. Challenge the pathologos. Right? Have courage. Have commitment. Be mature. Each one of those is dismantling the structure that the pathologos needs to survive. That's what we're doing. That's our job here. So, how do those who transmit the pathologos scene know when to enact this tragic drama? So, new question. And probably going to be a side A and side B to do with when, timing. So we've seen a lot. We've done a lot of reflection. Maybe now might be a good time to end the podcast for today. Today is a Friday at the time of recording, which means in a couple of hours we have a all about Platonism group with our friends Mindy Mendel and Jacobson, where we read the Republic. So I stream that live on my Twitch and YouTube, and then it goes up on the All About Platonism channel if you miss it live. So just a reminder, Fridays is All About Platonism reading group for Republic. So we'll cut today a little bit short so we can get ready for that. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found this reflection interesting. I hope you are recognizing that what we see played out around us can be understood. We can make rational what seems to be unjust, uncaring, and irrational, but also at the same time, we recognize all of them as a reflection of what's most significant, the same kind of drama we face within our souls, within our psyche. I hope you take on the task to fill out those question marks that we put on the board, so I'm not doing all the work for you. So you have an opportunity to not only define, but demonstrate, which is what? An invitation to the logos, an invitation to maturity, an invitation to the rare kind of commitment and courage and maturity and dedication to understanding that's rarely found even among the otherwise mature people. So, I hope that was fun today. I hope you take that on. I hope you'll spend your day wondering about those things. I hope you have a better response to that inner voice that ever tells you that you stink, or your goals stink, or reality stinks. In whatever way, I hope you have more of an understanding of how to address it. Reject it as an act. Don't believe it. And hey, maybe ask questions, maybe challenge its origin, maybe challenge the sincerity and beauty behind it, maybe challenge its authority. In fact, every one of those things that we have defined on our list, you will have an opportunity to demonstrate right now, today, every moment until you're free. So, while you can say, well, the pathologo seems very unjust that it keeps us chained to our problems and it's always speaking to us much louder than the true daemon guiding us along the logos. So doesn't that prove that reality is cruel and mean and irrational and uncaring? Unless we recognize our job is to master the dialectic by learning how to address what's false, and in doing so free ourselves from our unsuspected problems and ignorance. And that inner voice keeping it alive is actually helping us by always giving us an opportunity to demonstrate what we're defining, to be a dialectic. And in that way is even more caring and intelligible than we could have expected. Provided we take the invitation to this game, accept the call to our destiny, and play philosophy. And with friends. If you like and subscribe to this channel, and if you join our Discord, that's the game. Wake up to a higher degree of rationality, intelligibility, maturity, and care that was hidden behind these appearances and maintained with this inner negative daemon seemingly sabotaging our goals, until we wake up to our purpose to learn the dialectic, address the false, address the beliefs with understanding, giving us the opportunity to develop a rare kind of commitment, courage, and maturity, and therefore really helping us long term to grow. So, on that note, I hope to see you later on today at the Republic group, or otherwise, I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me.